It's got your audio and my audio. Our audios can be friends. The process of elimination is really nice for getting to deeper ideas that haven't been tried before. Um, so I first came up with this when I was trying to randomize for the profession of a character in a manga that I'm working on, and I knew lots of little things about the character, but I didn't know what it was that I actually wanted him to do. Some of the things that I did know about him, I knew that I wanted him to be um, ruthlessly logical in his business dealings, but generous with friends. Um, a hard worker, detailed in his work, doing something that required a lot of intelligence, but also kind of happy-go-lucky, pleasant to be around. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, I knew that I wanted him to have eyes all over the city, kind of on the level of like a traffic controller. So not necessarily that he was like able to do a lot about it, but able to kind of see what other people were doing. That was an important part of this character's profession. And then I think the last big thing about him, I didn't want him to be striving to build like a personal empire of power, because that was a theme that I'd seen come up a lot in manga, is these characters who were just like senselessly rich, and I didn't want that for him. I wanted him to be somebody who was just a little more normal, um, hardworking, but not crazy wealthy. So what I ended up coming up with, I reached for the characters deck, and I knew from the beginning that none of the characters in the characters deck would be exactly what I was looking for, and no combination of two ideas would work either. That I was looking for something a little more off the beaten path. So what I ended up doing, I grabbed the whole deck, and then I sorted it into 3 piles. I looked through each card one at a time, and then I put them in. See, I sorted them into definitely not cards that definitely did not fit with what I was looking for. It didn't fit with the vibe of the character that I had, so those went over here. And the cards that resonated on some level went over here. And remember, none of these were a perfect fit, and I knew that. But things where something about the cart felt very right, I put those over here. And the cards that didn't quite go on either side, those went in the middle under the maybe category. So let me show you kind of what I drew for his character that was definitely not. So we had Monk. What do we have? So Monk. We had Mother Earth. We had Scavenger. We had Monster. Was it Artist? Change of Heart. Healer. An Orphan. So these were all in my definitely not category. And when I flipped through them a couple of times, I realized that the thing that all these had in common was they were all kind of passive victim, or like just the gentler archetypes, I guess. Monster I always see as like this is your gentle Frankenstein character, is how I interpret that one. Scavenger definitely didn't fit because I didn't like the idea that this is someone who lives on the leftovers of greatness because they're unable to create something new. That was not a fit for his character at all. Mother Earth, I didn't want to have that kind of vibe of being a victim of what other people are doing to you. And Monk, offering total forgiveness. That wasn't what I wanted either. I wanted somebody who was more of a social troll. Um, so all those, that was in my definitely not pile. And then over here in the pile of, let me move these aside. Woo! No, I grab all of them. Dang it. Whatever. Over here in my pile of cards that I liked, let's just go through these one at a time. So we had Coffin Maker. And with each of these cards, there was something specific that resonated. It wasn't like the big picture idea, but some aspect of the archetype. So with Coffin Maker, I liked the idea of him having some kind of profession that depended on the misfortune of others. I thought that was interesting. What do you have over here? We have Ghost. The thing I liked about this one, I liked the idea that the purpose of his profession would be to reveal truth in some way. So I liked that. Oh, hey, come back. What? What did you do? Okay. We have Inventor. So I specifically did not want his character to be, like, involved in research or anything. That just felt like, sort of thing that is introverts work. I needed an extrovert for this character. But what I did like about this card, was the idea that he would be graced with curiosity and unusual resilience to disappointment. So I really liked that. I liked the idea of him keeping people in bondage with words that, and not necessarily in bondage even. I liked the idea that he would be powerful with words, having a silver tongue, and that his profession would make use of that in some way. I really liked the idea of him having made a significant sacrifice for the advantages that he had in his profession, that it wasn't necessarily something that came easily to him, if that makes sense. So, because I hate the characters where it's just like, oh yeah, everything in my life has been handed to me, and I really wanted a more human character. I liked the idea of him being someone who's willing to bring up forbidden topics. I love the idea of him having a moral compass that's not shared by his community. So somebody who's a little more, what's the word? You know, they're willing to let things get messy in order to do what needs to be done. So, what else? I like the idea of his life ambitions having narrowed to a single focus. I thought it'd be I really liked this card too. This one super resonated. The idea of him trading things, and more interesting if he wasn't focused on monetary trades, but was trying to create value in other ways. And this was one of the cards that really had an impact with this character. I'm gonna set that one there. I liked the idea of him killing artfully, you know, whatever. I mentioned I wanted him to be ruthlessly logical in his business deals, and I really liked the idea of it not just being like, but you're, you know, you're in trouble now, but for him to make artful and interesting conclusions to whatever went down, you know. So that was what it hunted with that. And then Hunter was another card. And what I liked about this one actually was just kind of the vibe of it. This is somebody who's brazen, who goes out looking for trouble. And not afraid to face whatever he finds. Somebody who's willing to do hard things. And who's just fearless, really, and believes that he can handle every challenge that's handed to him. So these were the cards that came together in what really resonated. And then over here we just had the what was it, Gatekeeper. You know, I could see him maybe being I like the idea of him being wise. And I wasn't sure about that one. Peacekeeper kind of resonated a little bit better. I think I liked the idea of him just being somebody who's responsible and somebody who is interested in the well-being of his community. Wait, hey, where are you going? Explorer. I liked the idea of him being somebody who would, like, maybe pave a new path and do something that nobody else had done before. So that's why I liked that card. I liked the idea of him doing some kind of work that was a little bit vulnerable. Not necessarily something that paid well. And then Clone, I didn't have strong feelings about this one, but I didn't hate it, so I kind of threw it over here. So anyways, so process and elimination, this is kind of how my thought process went as I was working on this character. Um, what I oh, come on. What I ended up coming up with for my character, his name was Rin. Um, as I was going through each of these cards and kind of talking it over with a friend, the thing that came to mind was a profession I'd never seen before in any story ever. And what I decided I want this character to do is to be a private negotiator, where he goes and he handles high stakes transactions between parties that do not have any kind of pre-existing contract or relationship, but they're trying to build one. And this was probably more interesting for me because I've taken a class in negotiation in college and I absolutely loved it. So I have personal experience um, with these ideas. And thought it would be fun to write a story like that. And as you're doing your process of elimination with characters and stuff, you're gonna have things like that too. You're gonna have preferences, and that's one of my favorite things about the spread. Actually, is that it really encourages you to insert your personal experiences with what's coming up. A lot of time when we look at these characters, we look at a cyborg or a prostitute or a monk, and these are all kind of abstract ideas. Most of us haven't lost an arm and tried to replace it with something robotic. Most of us haven't participated, in the sex trade, and most of us haven't actually gone and lived in a monastery in the woods. So sometimes the archetypes that we're drawing from in the cards can be really loud, but in the process of elimination, we kind of step away from those really loud ideas that we don't have personal experience with, and we look at the things we really care about and the things that we understand that are close to home. And interestingly enough, that's where some of the best new ideas can come from. So yeah, in the end, the character that I'm working on in my story now, he's a private negotiator, and it gives me all of the things that I needed with that character. He has really good visibility on what's going on around in the city. It works really well on an episodic level because he's constantly working on some new transaction between new people. And because sometimes he works for the government, sometimes he works for private businesses, he just has a really good idea of what's going on in the city in general. And he's also in a position where he can piss people off, which was, I think, the last thing I really wanted for his character, to have opportunities for conflict. So that is how the process of elimination works. This spread takes a little more time, but if you're willing to really sit down and take a good hard look at these cards, I think this is one of the most powerful spreads that you can do.